welcome to another episode of Frame and Reference. I'm your host, Kenny McMillan, and you're listening to episode 124 with Ed Moore, BSC, the cinematographer of Apple TV's Hijack. Enjoy.
Have you been watching anything cool recently?
Well, I've been. What have I been watching recently? I've just watched all of Better Call Saul because we came to it 10 years late. So we've just I feel like I've experienced all of Better Call Saul in the last the last couple of weeks. So that's been intense. It's been a fun show to watch. Mm-hmm. And now I'm just in prep on this feature. So everything I'm watching is actually a movie magic schedule or a series of location photos. So yeah, my viewing is has dropped right off. Like all of us, I've just got a incredibly long list. I feel guilty about the stuff I need to catch up on.
All these, this whole top.
That's the right to do. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I think during lockdown, till that stuff, I'm going to get through the BFI Top 100 that I've never seen, and then I watched YouTube videos of people who are gonna mow someone's lawn for free, and it's really, really high grass. And then you got a deep dive of that, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna watch Kurosawa another time in my life. But yeah, there you go.
I did. It was funny during the lockdown. After 9/11, Food Network saw a huge spike in people watching Food Network stuff because that's comfort food. And the same thing happened during lockdown as all the food YouTube channels got a huge spike. And then the one that was funny to me was Bon Appetit, the magazine. They had a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And that YouTube channel got millions of subscribers. And everyone was all down with this group of people, and then come up to find out Condé Nast or whoever it was wasn't paying them. It was it was a side project that just took off too fast. So that they got canceled immediately. Not the hosts, but the channel,
the project.
Yeah, that was a good time. Did you watch Breaking Bad before, when it came out, and then you just
OG Breaking Bad, for sure. And then so it was fun to go back in. I think they came up with such a kind of distinct visual language that is don't see often. Actually, it's it's beautiful. You can see things, and it's not in kind of Stygian gloom the entire time. It has a real visual identity. It's fun to watch.
It is an interesting show in the sense that that was one of the first shows that I remember, obviously outside of HBO, that really had a quote unquote cinematic look, because everything else on television that was really good looking felt like House. But still very good looking, but not movie.
I used to, for ages, I was kind of obsessed with this sort of network TV side. Anything that did 22 episode seasons and was shot in Vancouver or Toronto, and they're amazing because the kind of schedules. I thought loads of TV drama, and I'm used to lots of bit to be able to do it was always the key light for any female character was always clearly a 20 by 20 silk or something, and then you cut to the reverse of the guy, and the guy was always cool chiseled hard light, and they're a real House style, and it would be whatever you could intercut all of the shows together, and they would all look like they kind of from the same thing, but it was a real high end look, just the same one, but respect to pulling that out for 22 episodes every year.
I was talking to the DP of was it Joanna Coelho, maybe DP of The Rookie, which was an ABC show. And I used to work for ABC, but I was in an office. And I knew kind of the corporate structure. And I was like, whoa, was there any mandates? And she was kind of cagey about it, but basically was well, you do need to see both eyes, and both eyes do need light. And I was like, yes, there's a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the first job I got as a main unit DP was this comedy series. And I didn't know any different, but it was actually before Red Dwarf. I'd operated on Red Dwarf, and then as a result of that, I sort of, cheated and lied my way into a lighting job on this show called Common Ground. And I met with a producer, and they were oh, it's going to be like 11 pages a day. And I was like, I don't know, it sounds whatever. Like, that's, I don't know. And she like looked me in the eye and was like, do not try and win a BAFTA on my show. I was like, and I didn't. So, you're welcome. So that same thing of like, if you can't see the eyes, it's not funny, which is probably news to everyone who does like radio comedy or funny podcasts.
Right.
But you have to see both the eyes for it to be funny. But yeah, it's fun starting. I was pleased to have started my like DP career in comedy, because you have to work quickly, which is the bread and butter of being a DP, full stop, I think. And anyone can do it nicely, but can you do it quickly and nicely? But in comedy, like any amount of kind of look and gloss you bring to it is like a bonus to them. So they're so excited, like you make it look interesting as well.
That is actually I'm giving away the cards a little bit, but that is one of the number one questions I look forward to potentially asking is like, how do you, because a lot of shows, especially television, you're shooting however many episodes, and especially for the ones that look really good, it's like, how did you do that fast? Like, I'm fast.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
With your show, you had 110 days, which is wild for, like, we'll get to that. But like, some shows, where they're traveling all over the world, they're like, yeah, we had 40. You're like, well, how did you pull that off?
Yeah, it seems it seems wild. And I'm doing a feature now, and it's, what do we, like 37 days, I don't know, maybe less. I can't remember, but it's in the 30s. And it's been so long since I did a feature that I'm like, it seems like impossibly short. I'm like, well, I won't even notice. Like, it's like, I won't even need to charge my phone during the rest of this feature, because the TV shows just become so long now. And especially on Hijack, because I did a lot. Like, it's intense to be doing one thing for that long.
Right. And not have, oh no, I actually know the answer to that. I didn't know when to spring this on you, because it's kind of nerdy, but all the fucking cards and stuff might give it away. I very much look forward to whenever I get to talk to any Brits, because 9 times out of 10 they shot my favorite show, which is Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and
very proud that I've done that.
I want any stories, especially because you shot Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor, which were fantastic.
Thank you. So yeah, well, so those Day of the Time of the Doctor, I was second unit DP on.
Hey, that's still there. That's still there.
Yeah, I take it. Yeah, well, so that was so Neville Kidd was the DP. He's now done amazing work on shows like Altered Carbon, like Top Guy and Umbrella Academy. I think Neville's done. So he I can't remember which one, but certainly so one of those was the one where it was. Do you remember the bit where we shot everything in 3D and it was going to become like the thing? So one of those, I think it was Day of the Doctor, was the anniversary special was in stereo. So that was interesting to see. So back that was Alexa M's that no one remembers anymore in a like beam splitter rig and everything.
And now we have the Venice, which is basically now it has an Alexa M you can't pull apart. Or you
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, even then the Alexa Mini came out and we're like, oh, it's an Alexa M. They chopped the cable off. It was still the same size. But yeah, that was super fun. Yeah, and I also was a huge Doctor Who fan, and like all of the kind of the Matt Smith years of Doctor Who were like everyone has like a bond. Like I had a doctor. I'm sure you have the same. And I was it was a it was a goal of mine to like one day light it. So yeah, that was fortunate. And then I kind of that was second unit, and then I went away and kind of gradually worked my way up the main unit side, and then came back and I did 4 episodes with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Yeah, a few years back, and yeah, it's just a dream. Like I like really just there's not that many sneakily. I feel like I'm I'm no longer excited when I see like a Technocrane or whatever, but I was excited when I was on the TARDIS. Like taking sneaky pictures of myself. It's pretty special. Like it's such an institution. So to be a small part of that, and you'd see stuff like just lying around the studio, you'd be like, some, because the prop store there is huge, and there'd be like plastic crates that are like spare TARDIS lights and stuff.
Right.
Well, it's just sitting right there. Like, so yeah, getting through the day without just
You're like, I'm not gonna miss that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't need it. And then the one I did, well, one of the ones I did, we shot in Tenerife, which doubled for Gallifrey, amongst other things. And we took, and we're like, the TARDIS is going to materialize like in Gallifrey, and then Jodie's 13, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, 13th Doctor.
Yeah, okay. So and then she like opened the TARDIS, and obviously you shoot the interior of the TARDIS back in Cardiff in Wales in the studio. So I think I'd already shot that. Shot with just like a dimmed down 10K Fresnel just direct into her eyes with the depth of the real TARDIS behind. I think it's on my website somewhere. And then to go to Tenerife and shoot like the TARDIS materializing. And we had the national park at Tenerife. It's just this amazing location. And we had a crane set up, and we managed to persuade the AD to let me do it at sunset, to match the lighting. And we'd been shooting other stuff all day, and the guys had like taken the TARDIS out there, and the crane was pre-rigged, and we just turned them in. The director turned up at the last moment, and there was the TARDIS, which is obviously is just actually like 5 bits of wood,
right,
pinned together by some prop guys, but it's just sitting there with a little light flashing on top. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's why we do it, right?
Two things about that show. One, I think it's the British version of what do you call it? I keep trying to say Game of Thrones. That's not right. Fucking Law and Order. Because like anyone who works in New York, you end up working on Law and Order in some capacity.
Right. They can't escape. Yeah.
So there's that. But it's probably the most enjoyable sci-fi. There's a lot of amazing sci-fi television out there, but I think it's the one you can even if you don't enjoy that episode, or even if the Doctor's not your favorite, I think it's still enjoyable. It's like pizza. It's like there's no bad pizza.
Yeah, I think everyone.
And when it's great, it's amazing.
Everyone involved has. You're all sort of aware, whether it's the various showrunners, actors, crew. You're aware that sort of for a brief moment you're holding this sort of precious gem that is. Mad and weird and not always pretty, but like interesting, and is something that has been like treasured by just generations like of people. So to sort of and it's treated with such sort of deference and respect, but I think it compared to, I mean, I'm a big sci-fi nerd, of course, but there's something about the lightness of the touch on Doctor Who that sort of stayed through. Like, it's gone pretty serious, and it's always been scary, but like it's just fun. Like, it's it's a license to tell stories in the you just wouldn't be able to fit into many other genres. I'm delighted that it's now. I need to catch up on the new ones, but that's now been lent a whole new lease of life. Now it's sort of co-production, from what I understand, it's remarkable. They keep coming up with great stories for this character, and it's exciting to see.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend do the same thing. We're trying to speed through. We're about halfway through Jodie's season, to try to get to so we can watch the specials.
Yeah.
The new season started.
Yeah, great.
Matt Smith was also, well, technically it was David, but Matt Smith was, when I was in college, Matt Smith was like my doctor. And then when that season ended, I was like, I just imagine, like, especially at the end of Matt's, this is going to be a Doctor Who podcast now, especially at the end of Matt's tenure, it astounded. I was like, this man just spent like 1,000 years in purgatory, essentially. Wouldn't he be pissed off? And then the next generation is 12, and I was like, yeah, there he is. And that was like my favorite.
It makes sense.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, well, I loved all the stuff with the War Doctor, and that was such a great thing with John Hurt. Like, that was really cool. It's just fun. I was also, I mean, the Master stuff, like, a Rory, when he's like became a centurion and guarded the whatever it was called, a com. It's like, whoa, that's hard. Like he was there for like 2,000 years. That's intense, but it's traded well in that stuff. It does awe, and it also does slapstick. Like there's not that many things that combine, all of that stuff in one show.
Yeah. So that we'll make this worth people's free dollar. What was the sort of did they kind of have like a lookbook that you had to sit with? And was that different between Jodie's season and the sort of the specials, or were you kind of allowed to do what you wanted?
Oh, I think they, all the episodes are, obviously you have your sort of home base sets and things that are sort of lit. Not that you can't change it. I mean, we did some kind of like scary TARDIS stuff where the Master's kind of getting his fingers into the system, and we mix it up in there. But like, by and large, all the adventures are in by their own nature fantastical and in different places and stuff. So you get it's a treat. Like one of the episodes I did was when, I don't want to spoilers, it's been out for a while, but they go to a apocalyptic planet, and it turns out to be Earth. But like that was super fun. We had all kinds of like crazy. Some of that was Tenerife. We had in fact the Tenerife stuff, it was meant to be a we went there because we wanted like a Canary Island sun. We were shooting in like early January, and we needed like a sun blasted planet because humans in the future, like we destroyed the environment, and so we went out there for that, to the kind of volcanic mountains, and they built this amazing sort of 6-wheel truck staying out there for them to be exploring. We got there, entire island's completely covered in cloud, like this is completely thick as far as that, and so we're just sitting on the top of this mountain, being like this. Jodie's like, I can't say this makes, so she's got like dialogue with me, like, look at the way the humans have destroyed the environment, and all you can see is scorched earth, and you literally couldn't see 2 feet in front of you.
Right.
So the producer is like running down the hill to find the phone signal to call back to Chris Chibnall, being like, we need to change the dialogue. So it's like, look at the toxic gases,
smoke. Yeah.
So there is a bit of ducky diving, but no, I mean, in terms of look, like, I think it just inherently, like, it's in your blood, like it's Doctor Who, so it's a fun toy box to play in. The crews, the camera crew, all that had done it for many years, the lighting crew as well and things. So they can kind of help you, but like you're painting in broad strokes, and you're very aware that you're following in the footsteps of just like just a long history of brilliant DPs who've done it before. So it's fun to just add a little mark to the bottom of the tapestry.
Yeah.
Mix 7 metaphors.
Yeah. I got to interview the costume designer for like the first 3 seasons, and then she moved on to, I believe it was Game of Thrones, or no, it was The Witcher. And then a DP from a couple of different seasons, but the person I'm thinking of did the Eccleston season, and I was like, that must have been a strange, or no, the one straight after the Eccleston season. I was like, that must have been a strange change to go from like weird theatrical backlighting of just purple, like there's like a purple Parcan just in the shot.
Yeah.
That's in there. To I guess Matt Smith, which was very like polished up.
Yeah, well, the Matt Smith ones where that was they went on to the short-lived Sony F-35, and suddenly everything
still a great camera.
Blurry backgrounds and and big
sky panels,
top lights and things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, blurry backgrounds and sky panels. So that era was upon us, and
Going back to because I assume Doctor is kind of the same, but the initial question I had before I got super distracted, which was, what did comedy shooting, and I suppose Doctor Who to a degree, teach you about moving quickly? Like, were there any kind of tricks that you picked up that allowed you to get like let's say a high budget look in a fast environment?
Well, I think it's it's great like that, because it concentrates your mind on, like, this sounds reductive, but like if just in TV world, like if you're not completing the call sheet, there's no point. There's like table stakes. So you have to get through the stuff, and then I think and then it's on you, like as you know, with the artist side of your job rather than just the sort of like facilitator. And then it's like, well, how can I get, how can I offer more creatively into this? But like that metronome is constantly ticking, and I think that it's helpful to learn in those conditions. I so compare it to like, people learn to play the guitar. It's like you can either kind of like spend ages trying to get your fingers onto the right place before you strum, or you just always keep strumming, and like if your fingers have to figure it out,
right?
And that's a better way to learn, because eventually, they go, oh, okay, crap, we've got to do this. So I do really believe that the basic tenets of like making a beautiful like lighting on a person or a scene like are not that difficult. Like if the kind of the core skill is like at least pre-visualization. You should be able to sort of know the statue inside the block of marble before you start chipping away. That comes first. But like the ingredients that make something look appealing or interesting, or most importantly like fit the way the story feels and the characters feel, like are not that difficult. But like doing like 10 strips a day like that and with location moves is harder. So you learn. I years before I'd done theatre lighting as just like when I was 15 I was doing follow spots and theatre stuff, and then in theatre lighting you're lighting a space. You're never lighting a shot. The shot is the proscenium arch or whatever, and everything has to happen within that. So I guess I came into TV in film lighting with a little bit of that mentality. So I try and light spaces and environments more than shots, and that keeps the equipment out of the way. It tends to look more natural anyway, and then you're in a good position to tidy up a little bit for close-ups, but on top of an environment that exists. So I've tried to keep in with that. As a general rule, I want obviously I want it to look beautiful and interesting, but it's more important to me that the actors and the directors have space to work. If I'm hampering them, then I think it's the cart leading the horse a little bit. Is that the right expression? Or the tail wagging the dog? Certainly. Like we're there to capture the performances, and like it's my job to support the performances in photography that sort of amplifies them and seats them in the story the director's trying to tell. So and occasionally I think that the pendulum swings too far for me, and I feel like I pulled my punches slightly, and I need to stand up for myself a little bit more and be like, guys, just let's pause, let me just get this. And you have to, and as the years have gone on, I've realized more when the opportunity, when I need to do that. Because no one's there in the grade, no one's there when the show goes out looking at kind of like a slightly mediocre shot and being like, hey, but like we wrapped 15 minutes early. Right. Remember that? Like, so there's that, like it's, you can't go that far. But also if you're taking so long lighting that you're not really turning over till like 2 hours into the day, or people are only getting a couple of takes in, then that's not serving anyone. And in the UK, where I've mostly worked, we don't have the same length of hours that tends to happen in US shooting. Like we're pretty much like 10 hours on camera, and I'm very aware that of that time, what the directors actually, if the directors had like a chess stopwatch and measured the time that the directors actually have to work to do their thing, to that no one is telling them we're just setting this up, we're just moving this, or there's a car coming through, or we're waiting for the actor to come from the trailer or whatever. They really have maybe like 2 hours of that 10 hours to actually a thing. And I just I think it's on me and the other heads of department to try and extend that and not get not put our stuff in the way of giving them that time.
Yeah, I was talking to one of Fincher's DPs. It was either Eigel or Messerschmitt, but he was saying that the mandate was that the camera department, the camera equipment had to fit in a Sprinter van, and they had to be ready to go in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was just like, we're not playing this game. We're just gonna fucking shoot it. Like,
oh man, well, I was lucky enough to hang out with Eric Messerschmitt recently. We were both on a panel at a film festival, and I mean, it's just a joy. He's an extraordinary DP and an absolutely lovely guy. But I love this Fincher. I mean, Fincher, I think I would be kind of scared to work for, but like he's a remarkable filmmaker, and I love the the Social Network making of is still like one of the greatest film schools you can
absolutely.
And I really remember I remember watching it years ago, and it's like day one, the Social Network, and like Fincher's walking on the set, and they're discussing the first scene, and like the boom guy is like saying something, and Fincher's like, "This is the last time I ever want to see you." Like, there should be no reason why we ever, like, the boom guy's like, "Maybe you can pay me out and I could be here," or whatever. And he's like, "No, that's not what we're doing." Like, and I do think that there is without sort of touching on personalities and stuff, I always respect it when people are just like unwilling to let things slide, be like, no, wait, because actually, like, on a film production, like, so many people like want you to move. I mean, I want you to move on, want you to say it's fine. I tasted a tiny bit of this on Hijack, actually, because I ended up directing sort of second unit stuff or picking up a few elements here and there. And some of it was like quite big sequences with, and one of it happened to be like the last day. And the entire unit is like it was really interesting, like just feeling for a moment, being the shoes of the director and just feeling everyone wanting you to say, yeah, it's great, move on. Right. And you have to be like, no, it's not, we're all here. We'll never be in a more perfect situation to get it better than right now. So let's do it. And actually, people respect that. People the set needs that voice. They want someone to just be like, let's get it right. And as long as you're not, an arse about it, then people will respond to that. And it just encourages people to deliver when you know that there's just no chance someone's going to be like, oh, okay, whatever, that'll do.
Yeah.
So it's.
Well, it's you've kind of strung together like the sort of spectrum of what I'm thinking of, which is at the first point you've got, oh no, I spent too much time talking. Shit. What happened? No, I was saying I forgot what the first one was. But so there's the element of standing up for yourself and figuring out like when and where you're able to do that. The first feature I was ever on, I didn't do that, and I was the second unit DP, and I fucking should have. Or even just making suggestions. They're like, here's our gear list, and I was like, I could bring some stuff, but I was like, they know better than me, and it's like, why did I do that? Like, I know better than me. Like, I should have said something. Not that the final product really suffered in aggregate, but to your point about the guitar analogy, like if you spend so much time trying to make it perfect, it'll never be perfect, but you've got the rest of the crew. You got your production designer, your costumer, you've got the editor, the colorist that can, if you keep playing, if you miss a note, you've got everyone else to kind of pad that song, as it were, pad the scene. And then finally figuring out when to let go. when enough becomes the enemy of
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting sometimes because it's easy to see in your own team, like sometimes, it's common for a focus pillar to be like, God, we have to go again. And because there's like a buzz and a bit, because when pitching on the focus pillar, just because it's a good example of something where you're so focused on a particular aspect of it that sometimes you don't see the wood for the trees, and someone could, you can have like Meryl Streep absolutely knock out the entire set, is like in tears, and the focus pillar's like, that take might as well just drag that straight to the freaking bin. There's no point. So sometimes, and then sometimes it's like Oppenheimer and the guy's ears, the only thing in focus for half the scene. But I see it in my own thing sometimes where because it's such a long process from like you read a script and you have an inkling, I got a cool lighting thing I could do on this scene, and then you sit and you gradually are working your way through like getting the right kit you need to do that on the list, seeing the location, seeing it again, persuading the director and doing it on set, and then it doesn't quite work, and it's all your brain has just at that point has become like so narrow on this one thing, and that's a trap. But it can also be a huge boon to sort of have the attention to detail on one thing, and as you say, it's like to borrow a Spinal Tap phrase, it's such a fine line between clever and stupid.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to hold out for it. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Well, the only way to figure it out is to keep working. But I think that's the hard part, is just not being so precious with your work that.
Keep it moving, and that's the difference. Like, I think between commercials work and drama is that, like, commercials, you just work over and over the 10 or so frames you've got, and everyone is like, how can we improve this? How can we improve this? And like, drama, it's just impossible to keep that up. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There's going to be some frames that are not like your super fave. There's going to be one of those actors is going to get themselves against a wall the color of like, pale, sallow flesh. And there's going to be nothing you can do. And you're going to be like, oh, maybe the colorist will save me. That's just the nature of it. So, but if that actor is just breaking everyone's heart over there, then that's going in the movie, and that's your job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the hard thing is DPs too, is like, you gotta, younger DPs, I should say, or like newer DPs, is like the acting is the most important part. That's why anyone's there. They're not there to see your cool backlight or your sweet anamorphic flare. So you got to make sure that gets preserved more than anything. And then,
well, I think it's, you're the custodian, aren't you? Like you're holding that flame for the director, and also like it should be said, if not you, then who? Like, nobody else on that set is sticking up for the look of the movie. Everyone's going to be happy to take credit for it if you like win some awards or something, and be like, oh yeah, no, of course we were all really behind. We were behind Kenny when he held out for that.
Right.
We're only shooting this in Magic Hour or whatever. Everyone will suddenly be like taking credit, but yes, it takes a while before where to push it.
Yeah. So with a great transition, Ken. So with Hijack, you had a lot of the show in a tube, and kind of going to our idea about moving quickly and stuff, but also protecting the performances. How did you focus on trying to keep that set interesting in some way? Because in one way it's a very stylized look to the show, but in another way it's incredibly natural looking. And it's very fascinating how you were able to toe that line between, like, I don't know, Jason Bourne, I don't know what you want to call it, and which could just be the grade, and a very like clean look. It's not dark and muddy. It's incredibly clean and sharp and contrasty, and yet still natural.
Well, thanks, and thank you for acknowledging the tube, because I went from Hijack directly onto Silo, another show set entirely in tube, orientated a different. So I'm waiting to complete my trilogy, maybe a submarine or something. I've told my agent, or maybe just a costume drama set entirely outside. But yeah, sure. And thank you for your kind words. And it would be, what do you do when you're in one precinct for that long? I mean, I'd say probably 85% of the show is on that plane. And that was and
in real time, right? For people that don't.
Right. And it's a world that we've all been in. Like, everyone's been on a long plane. It's not the TARDIS. It's not a spaceship where you can do cool whatever things. Like, you have to. The show was never going to work unless it was sort of at least the cinematography and the sort of the setting, the production design was kind of like the straight man, as it were. Like, it had to be like, this is it. Like, this is real. the nature of the things were happening were obviously heightened, and so the cinematography, had to also feel that way. But we never want. Jim Phil Smith, right from the start, was like, this can't feel like the. This is not like the euphoria of Hijack. This is
Right.
we this is not that. Like, this is the camera we need to feel as the audience in this pressure vessel with these people. There's no escape. We both, I think, really early. Jim probably felt this from the second he came up with the project, and then he let me pretend like I thought of it later on as well. Good idea, Ed. Yeah, I've been prepping this for a year. But yeah, we're like, let's never take a wall out. Let's never take chairs out. Let's make it really uncomfortable for the being the operator to sort of get the camera where we want, because it just, if as soon as you get into that, we talk about the network TV look. As soon as you get that thing where you're feeling like, we're sort of on a 75mm. There's no wall here. Like, we're clearly, the cameras are like, I think whether or not you work in TV, you feel that that disconnect. And then in terms of lighting, it's back on some of the topics we've hit already. You need to be able to work quickly. There are we were delivering 35 setups a day. Pretty frequently on that, and so to be able to work at that pace with an aircraft that was loaded with 30 speaking roles, like a further 100 supporting artists, that you're seeing in all directions very frequently. Like, Jim, we wanted to do lots of sort of, moving camera storytelling up and down the length of the entire aircraft. So it had to be, I had to come up with a lighting design that was going to enable me to quickly shape a look. And I think it's now very common to have a lighting programmer. Because I came from theatre, that's always been my thing about having someone from that world. It was crazy to me when I first started, and I was like, wait, what are these metal things you put in the light to dim it? This is insane. And also, why do you clip the gels on the outside of the barn door? Like, the gels go in the front. Anyway, but so yeah, we had, I think, 6,000 control channels of lighting on that aircraft. Ziggy Jacobs, just genius desk op, who I've worked with many times, and she comes from the world of live events and opera, where they're like, this is like a pathetically small number of fixtures, but it meant that we were able to, wherever the cameras were pointing, quickly control, contrast ratios, and try and get a kind of a look into it. And and the other thing that, when we started prepping, I was like, at least, obviously we'll make it so the plane is has like a sunset and a sunrise or whatever during the journey. No, that's not how the timing of the scripts work. They are in like full daylight the entire journey.
Right.
They're flying east to west, so that the sun basically doesn't move. I did the flight.
Thanks, scriptwriter.
Yeah, thanks, guys. But I was like, it was kind of an advantage, because we couldn't lose the set. It was just too long a shoot to put the whole thing on hydraulics or anything. We did a little bit for the flight deck, but I was like, okay, we need to have a sense of movement in the plane, and I want to have like that thing we're all familiar with, where you have the harder source, like, that's kind of almost annoying, and it's tracking through the cabin as the plane rolls. Right. So I ended up building the whole set and the whole studio actually in Blender in 3D, and like playing around. And I wanted to, I'd done plane stuff before, but like, you tend to have like smaller sets that are like 20 rows deep or whatever, for kind of doing like a scene here and there. And, like a lot of DPs, I'd played with this where you put like a 20K on a camera crane and you swing it around and you get different stuff. But the trouble with that approach is you have a single source not that far from the set, and then the angle of the beams changes throughout the set, and you sort of give away that your sun is 30 feet outside the window and not one astronomical unit away. Yeah. So I was like, okay, we need parallel beams, and so parallel beams equals one light source per window. So we added 75 windows down one side. Fortunately, only one side because the aircraft was always heading the same direction. So I found the brightest moving headlight I could, which was
like the
Roby,
concert lights.
Roby BMFL, which I thought it was BFML, which I kind of assumed sort of a big fucking moving light, but okay, it's not that. But this was a discharge light. They were kind of messy and old, and we had to every day. Ziggy had to like change the level of green to out of all of them. But we had they were the brightest light that I could get with the smallest edge to edge width, because the spacing of these windows was like 55 centimeter centers. Right. So I needed something that I could fit 75 of these in a row on one huge truss. Okay, next problem, we need to move the truss up and down smoothly, so not like standard like right motors. So I found this system, this kinesis system, which is kind of a little bit more like motion control-y. It's for like super clubs where they have animated truss moves. And so, that gave us the truss moving up and down so that we could make the light change. But okay, now all our moving lights are now pointing at the studio floor, and then they're pointing over the top. So Ziggy, I gave this problem to Ziggy. I was like, you need to get this thing to talk to this thing. So yeah, eventually she with the aid of like 12 computers, which she translated one thing to another, as the truss moved up and down, this thing was like, I think, 80 meters long, weighed 3 tons, and it had 75 of these moving lights on. As it moved, it would tell her lighting desk like it's this height, and then it would map the tilt angle on the fixtures so that they would all tilt through. So it was like a lot of work, and it was obviously very expensive, and I had to sort of persuade a lot of people that it was going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Like when we finally fired up and you saw this, like, you sit in the set and you'd see all those like window shaped lights just sort of move through the thing. Your brain just goes, oh, I know this. I've seen this. Like, on a million flights, it's like we're turning into LAX. It's like the last bit of the flight. It's such a sort of like, you're like a visceral gut level. You're like, the plane's moving. I was super, super happy with it. And it gave me like the discharge lights spotted right down. We had to shutter them all off each window so they never spilled into the next one. If anyone's wondering, hey, but how do you do like turning left and right? I didn't do that. That was very complicated. It was impossible to do left and right. We'd have had to track the entire truss left and right. It was already costing a fortune. But the rolling worked super well, and we, having the super hard discharge source coming through and just letting that be like 4 stops over gave a really good way to build an exposure off, because you're just used to that in a plane. You're used to there being just bits that are like annoyingly bright. Obviously I played the angle of the sun lower than it kind of would be, because it's more fun to see Idris Elba all backlit.
Right.
But so yeah, and then so there are the entire show, that truss is moving slightly to sort of in cruise mode, and then there are moments where it's rolling more in bigger moves. Some more of which I would have liked to have ended up uncut apart in the final show. But I think it's in there, and it's giving you this subconscious sense that this aircraft's on the move, and it helped for the cast as well. I think when we loaded everyone in for the first time, or we're playing this stuff, and they're seeing we had virtual production screens outside with clouds and stuff, and you're feeling this thing. You could, when we started the first big move, people were like, "Whoa, okay, you're moving the set," and so I think they're healthy performances. That's
absolutely well, and I've always wondered if like the virtual production people get kind of ill when if they're looking at if they're looking at where the camera box is like moving around, but being in an airplane with the lights moving, way worse, because it's like memory colors, right? Where that's going, whereas it's so surreal. Wall.
I mean, particularly like the I just did like screen recording, like as it happens. I'm a huge flight sim nerd. This is fun in that way, but I'd already have all the things, all the controls. Like I stopped playing with it for a year. I've got to say, for some reason, it was like I got it out of my system once we shot this. But I recorded. I just did screen recording some fight scenes of like the takeoff from Dubai, and the graphics in fights now are crazy good. It pulls it all from everything, and we played that like looking out the window, and I've got some like video on my phone as a camera focus puller, Jason just sitting there as like Dubai just took off and the lights went by. We were just like, this is so cool. Like, you feel like you've created like an illusion. Like it's, you feel like you're working for, Imagineering suddenly, rather than just, doing a TV show.
I wonder if are you guys like, maybe not the first, but do you think you're kind of like near the first people to do that? Because I don't know how many people are using virtual production stuff.
I would always hesitate. I would hesitate to say the first. Well, I mean, Eric Messerschmidt did a whole movie with Devotion.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
I got it wrong. Actually, weirdly, we were, so I don't know about first, but like certainly I think I would be surprised if anyone has filmed longer on an aircraft than we have for anything. And there's been features, and we watched United 93, we watched Air Force One, we watched all the things you would think of, and there was a sort of there were things we liked, things we
Snakes on a Plane. I'm sure
Snakes on a Plane was our main one. Yeah, that was just like create just the base creative vibe of Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah,
I think it's obvious to anyone who's seen Hijack. It's the juice. They all offer stuff, but just like for just sheer number of shots, like on a plane, I feel I'm fairly safe, and like no one has been crazy enough to just, if there's an angle on an airliner that I haven't done, I would be surprised at this stage.
Well, part of me is wondering, like, I'm going to say something after we get off, but okay. I was for some reason or another, I was watching Interstellar, and nope, already lost it. Fuck, now that's dumb. now that's dumb. I'll just say it. In 2 hours, I'm interviewing Hoyta.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So we'll get. If you want to ask him anything, let me know before we go. But
can I have your career? Are you using your career? Can I borrow it for a bit?
Yeah. But the all the plane stuff was cool. But so in Interstellar, they when they were designing the black hole, the wormhole, that ended up being like a scientific paper. And I'm wondering if all that work that Ziggy did getting all of the computers to talk to each other and all the lighting rigs I wonder if that could become a paper, because I can't even get 2 Excel sheets to talk to each other.
Well, yeah, we kept, it was a show for Apple, and there were a whole bunch, like one of the key components of that system was some like really cool like indie software that an Apple developer has written that was at the heart of it. So like every time some of the like Apple press team or things were there, I was like, you guys, like, look at this, it's like Apple stuff, it's cool. And they were like, no, we kind of like Idris Elba and like him.
Oh, do you?
I was like, are you sure this software is kind of I think with the right Apple audience, they would have been into the lighting software. But yeah, I mean, it's when all that worked for the first time, like CGI, we're high-fiving, because it was like it's one of those things where you go like, intellectually that should be fine, like, but then the number of like technical hurdles that you've got to overcome to kind of get it all working, and then for it to just kind of work flawlessly for 110 days is pretty special.
Right. Well, I just yesterday interviewed the DP of Lessons in Chemistry, or one of them, which is a different Apple show. And I asked them this, and I want to ask you, because obviously certain studios are more hands-on than others, was there any kind of creative input from Apple, or were they just kind of there to help facilitate whatever you needed to do, apparently computer-wise? I didn't even think about that. But because I mentioned this to him, and he respectfully disagreed, and then I came onto his side, which was all the Apple shows look the same is what I said initially. But what I really meant was not like ABC shows, but like look the same in the sense that apparently Apple is just picking really high quality work. Like they all look the same in that they all look really good, and my brain
I'll go
that too.
Good recovery.
They all look
no good recovery.
Well, it's your show especially doesn't, but or Silo for that.
Obviously I think they all operate in their distinct sort of creative creations. I think that they how much dealing did I have directly with them? I mean, they only want quality. Like their brand is about like super high end quality and just, the sort of whole, it just works for all. So like it's, and, we're all aware that like, Apple TV stuff is kind of like even though it's this all these big budget shows, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the other parts of the company. So that I think there is, or certainly like I felt like the shows are an extension of the brand in the sense that like you just expect, you want to, like if you go into an Apple store to buy whatever, like you just have assumptions about how that is going to work and feel and present itself, and it's the same with the shows. And I think they take a great deal of care in how they pick and support and develop projects, and they stuff just doesn't get to this stage unless it's they have super good feeling about it. They were exactly like the other big studios and streamers, the specific producers and production execs and things always they want and expect you to present your ideas, and you sort of already pass the hurdle by being hired in the first place, because it's hard to get hired on these shows. So they want and can expect the best. They can kind of get whoever they want. I think that's a good way of saying it, that they are united in quality. There's nothing bad looking on the platform, and they don't. They've got no interest, I think, in just sort of like, putting a ton of content up. Like they'll put stuff up when they think it's good. And that's like, why wouldn't you want to work for a company like that? Like it's just the interest is in quality. So.
Well, and I think that's kind of this is a half-cooked idea because of the implications of online, like having everything on one network like we used to do with Netflix. But like I feel like that's kind of the future, is like I compare it to the Criterion streamer, which is like it's curated, right? It's easier to go on Apple, or I guess in a way Disney Plus, because it's that's pretty curated, but there's just a lot of it, or Criterion, which is you turn it on and there's maybe 50, 100 things you can pick and they're all good, versus like old school Netflix, or even current Netflix to a degree. No shade on Netflix, but there's just a lot of stuff on there. And you turn it on and you're just inundated with so much choice that you end up going like, fuck it, I'm going to watch TikTok,
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's true. Like, and I think you've just got, if you're just going to randomly like hold down, right on the controller and just press select on the Apple platform, like you've got a really good chance of watching a quality piece of work for sure.
Yeah. I did want to ask, how did you, this is a slight pivot, but I have the Preserving the Vision book.
Oh, sure.
And I was wondering how'd you get into the BSC?
Well, I mean, now in retrospect, I'm like, wow, I was lucky to get in. So I was in 2018, and it's, I can't remember where we're up to now. There's, on average, the BSC is about 100 full members at any time, and it's something to aspire to. And I think, I think we'd all seen those initials after people's names. You're like, what does that mean? And you go on that journey, and you sit in as a, when you're in the industry initially, like you work on a job with a BSC person, you're like, oh my God. Oh, it's like in awe, which immediately evaporated for me the second I got in. It's like sort of Groucho Marx saying I wouldn't want to be a club that didn't have me as a member.
It's like getting in the magic.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, so the Magic House and the BSC very similar.
Super similar.
Incidents. Yeah,
Bunch of nerds standing in a room.
yeah, exactly. Being like just slightly snippy about a nerd who everyone perceives to be doing slightly too well for their
Right.
yeah. It's just the same. And the BSC, a brilliant DP Nigel Walters was kind enough to nominate me, and you have to be nominated and seconded and all that kind of stuff. And you have to send in stuff. And I really like this. Like you send in like 10 minutes of stuff, but it has to be like sort of unedited. Basically, you can't do like snippy show reels. You have to send sort of excerpts. And I can't remember if I got in on the first time or the second time. I feel like it was this. I can't remember. I think I was steered away the first time, and then the second time, I got that call. I was on set shooting a show called The Feed, and we were just about to start this like long, exhausting night shoot, and I got the call from Nigel to say, you've given the thumbs up. And now I know a bit more, seen it from the other side. Like, the BSC is picky. Like, it takes a while for your name to sort of work its way in, and then I haven't been able to help out with the sort of selection panels so far. So I've always been working on something when it's come up, but like, they discuss the work in great detail and sort of go over stuff. So it's it's been a real treat. Like, but the BSC has always sort of invited the events and dinners and stuff. I've been along to beforehand, so I sort of knew a load of the people, and I would love to just be contributing more to the society. To be honest, I'm so proud of being a member. I now have 2 kids, and I'm like working all the time, so like I need to fit it in. But like it's so fun. It's just nice to have a thing where it's everyone. Everyone in the organization shares the same issues that you do and the same sort of hopes and dreams and stuff. Like, to even be in the same organization as like, Roger Deakins, John Matheson and stuff. And that's pretty extraordinary. I did go to the, there is a thing about the BSC, which is, it's also it's very British. It can sometimes feel like a sort of golf club meeting. And I remember that one time I was, MBS Lighting very kindly invited me to the ASC Awards, and it just had the hilarious like additional level of glam and pizzazz that you guys do so well. Like I was sitting in first of all, it's in this gigantic thing, I think just down the road from the Magic Castle.
Yeah, you can literally see it from the clubhouse. Yeah,
right. And we're in this huge venue, and I was like on some table at the edge, and the awards start, and like Maddie Liebertig was presenting, and he has like he's doing like sort of like late night TV level like gags, and like everyone's there's like back and forth, there's amazing AV, and then they're like, okay, to present the first award, there's like so many awards. The first award was like best cup of tea made by a camera trainee on like a low budget documentary set in like Wisconsin, and they're like, to present this award, Samuel L. Jackson, right? Like, and then Sam Jackson, and then it only went up from there, and I was like, wow, like these guys like do like it helps being in Hollywood when you're doing your award show. But like the BSC ones, I have to say, like, and now like super cool. Like we've got them, Chris Ross, the current president, has got them firing all cylinders and things, and they're pretty glitzy. But yeah, they're both really fun organizations.
Yeah. Does obviously it's, as you said, like a point of personal pride for sure, but does it help you work wise? This is half creative, half artistic in this industry. Like, do people see the letters and get excited?
I think it's it's hard to say, because it's hard to sort of track the implication it's had. I mean, I felt like initially it's something that probably matters more to us nerds. Like it's a bit inside baseball, and it matters less to
producers.
Sort of, maybe. I think that probably as I started sort of being put up for these bigger shows, the bigger streamer shows, the budget stuff, and I think it probably who's to say? I think I can imagine it may be an extra point in your favor when you're being considered by an Apple or Netflix or something for a big show. That they as I say, they can have whoever they want, so they want to make sure they're getting the best. So it's nice to feel like there's a stamp of approval from my peers.
Yeah. Well, we've got a little bit over, but so we'll let you go.
So all right, I'll see you there. It's lovely to chat, Kenny. I look forward to listening to your show a bit more now.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, take it easy. Bye,
everybody.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production. It's produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan, and distributed by Pro Video Coalition. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can go to frameandrefpod.com and follow the link to buy me a coffee. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.